This is a short demo of the Ogre web application. You start by visiting this website, app.ogre.run, and right here you're gonna have the chance to connect your GitHub account to Ogre. Once you do this, you can visit the dashboard. This is the main page of the application. That's where you see all the projects that you are tracking using Ogre. So let me show you this project here, file server. This is a GitHub project inside of the Ogre.run organization, and here we are using Ogre to track the evolution in the code. So we start by seeing a lot of information about the latest commit, and what Ogre does is that every time a new commit is pushed to file server, Ogre will analyze the code and generate this list of reproducibility artifacts. What are those? Those are files that are necessary in order to be able to reproduce the application in different systems and different environments. So here we have a Docker file, requirements files, which is a list of all the libraries that this code base needs in order to run, a software bill of materials, which basically lists the supply chain of the libraries used in this application. And here is a README file, which is basically documentation. What is interesting about this specific project here is that when we created it, it had no README. And the README here, it was generated completely based on what is contained in the code. This is very important for code reproducibility because source code is not enough. There is a lot of information, a lot of intention that's communicated in the documentation. And as you know, a lot of developers are not good at writing documentation. This ends up lagging behind the code after some time. Another thing that we have here is this terminal window. Why is that? We want to enable developers to try their stuff right away out of the box. So once Ogre is done generating these artifacts, we can use this script here and paste on the terminal. What it does is it basically loads all of the files that were generated, the reproducibility artifacts, and from here on you can try things out in this repository, in this specific commit. So the cool thing is that the dependencies are already installed here, and you can do your usual exploration of the application. So right now we only have a not so powerful terminal here. It's just like 4 virtual CPUs and 2 gigabytes of memory. But for those who will subscribe to the Pro tier of Ogre, they're going to have a terminal that has access to GPUs. And we are even considering some ways to enable them to run a VS Code interface here. So to be defined. Okay, now that we explained the project view here, let's go back to all the projects, the dashboard, and then let's create a new project. So when you created your account, the installation process will ask if you want to connect all of your organizations or just some of them. Right now I have only my personal account and the Ogre.run organization connected. So let's see the repositories inside the Ogre.run, and let's pick one of them. I'm going to pick the miniogre, which is our open source tool, and I'm going to click create project. So what Ogre is doing here is pulling the latest commit that was pushed to miniogre, which is a very recent commit, and then analyzing the code, analyzing the documentation there, and generating the reproducibility artifacts, Docker files, requirement files, software bill of materials, and README files. So why this is important? Because it helps developers to make sure that they always have the latest updated reproducibility artifacts. So it helps them keeping track of reproducibility, helps them to focus on the application functionalities while Ogre takes care of the reproducibility side. So let's wait a little bit more until it finishes. All right, and here we have it. This is the new project that we are tracking, miniogre. You see the blue dot here indicating that there is an update. And by the way, this is valid for all of the other repositories here. So if right now somebody in my team pushes a new commit here, Ogre will be triggered automatically. I don't need to do this again. So every time you add a project here, it already starts tracking it automatically. So if we click on miniogre, we see a screen that's very similar to file server, but of course specific to the miniogre project. And here we have its customized artifacts, reproducibility artifacts, and also a terminal that the developers can use in order to run code right there. All right, so talking about GPUs in the terminal, we can visit here our subscription page. So we have 3 tiers right now. Everybody who starts with Ogre starts in the free plan. And then if they want to get unlimited projects and then have more functionalities, they can acquire the Pro tier for $8 a month, or we have a yearly discount of 18%. And we have also been working with 3 companies, 3 enterprises. One of them has been converted into a client, and the other 2 are still in negotiation. But what is important to say here is that with the enterprise tier, we enable a lot more customizations to our clients. And one of those customizations, which is very frequent request, is to run Ogre and everything that you're seeing here inside their own infrastructure. For us, this is super simple. We just need to deploy whatever that we already have here inside their own cloud or their own local servers. And that's why pricing might vary from client to client. But what we are doing now as well is creating an enterprise tier that's deployed only on the Ogre cloud, just like the Pro. But we're still defining all of the features here that are gonna fit our clients who are asking for this tier. All right, so here you have information about the organization, and then you can edit the name. You can add members to your organization as well. So this varies depending on which tier you have. And then you have information about your profile that you can also edit. And the last thing here to explore is a page for tokens. We can generate tokens in this page in order to be used with the miniogre application. Miniogre, which is the same repository that I was tracking here, is our open source tool for reproducibility. So we can actually have a look at miniogre very quickly. So anybody can install miniogre and use it for free from pip. So here we already have it installed, and this is a tool that will analyze the source code inside a specific folder in your computer and then generate a container that is able to run that source code. So right now we have these comments here, but the most important one is to run, which is the one that will create the container. So if we go to a repository here, let me see. Okay, Stable Diffusion. This is a repository that is like a deep learning repository, lots of stars on GitHub. And as you can see, there are several files here, and it is a Python code base. So what we can do here is type miniogre.run, and once we do this, it will start analyzing the entire source code and the documentation, for example, README files right there. So what it wants to do is to, similarly to the web application, it will generate a Docker file, it will regenerate requirements files, it will also create an SBOM, and it will create a new README. Why? Because with a new README, we make sure that we are reflecting what really happens in the source code. As you know, developers are usually very bad at keeping documentation and README files updated. All right, so here it is. After the build of the image, you are greeted by the container. So here you are already inside the container. Here are all of your files. And the cool thing about this is that all the dependencies have been installed. So you can already start coding and testing stuff right here without worrying about figuring out what needs to be installed. Remember, source code is not enough, and this code here was made in a completely different computer than mine, probably in a server with a ton of GPUs, and right now I'm just coding on my local Mac. So this is very handy. So to get out of the container, you can just do exit. So the last thing I want to show you here is the command miniogre cloud. This command will take your local project, your local files, and transfer it to an environment in the cloud. And this is very handy because it's just one command. This is very, very useful to developers who don't have sometimes the computational capacity to run their code locally. So with this command, I'm gonna start packaging everything in a tar file, and then it will generate a URL that I can visit, and there's going to be all my files already ready to be used. So let me copy this address here. All right, so here we have a terminal on the cloud that contains all the files that I first had right here. Right? So this gives the ability to developers to just move stuff as quickly as possible to another environment that will potentially contain the devices that they need to run that. So right now, as I mentioned before, terminal.ogre.run is not a very powerful machine, but for those who will have a pro tier, this will become something that's much more powerful with a lot of CPUs and GPUs. And that's why we provide the creation of tokens here. So once you have this token, if this token is associated to a pro tier, once you run the miniogre cloud, this will take you to a terminal that has a GPU. So this was a quick demo of the Ogre web app capabilities, including the miniogre command line interface, which is our open source project. So if you have any questions, just reach out to us by email at contact@ogre.run or via our website here.